Rolex spends millions on fancy ads and celebrity sponsors to make you think their watches are worth $10,000 plus, but they really don't want you comparing them to other watches. When you put Rolex next to watches from Seiko, Citizen, Casio, Tudor, and Grand Seiko, you discover something shocking. The other watches often work better, have cooler technology, and cost way less money. Rolex survives by making you think about their brand name and history instead of actually comparing what the watches can do and how they're made. These 10 comparisons show exactly why Rolex panics when people start asking smart questions about value, technology, and actual quality instead of just buying based on logos. Let's look at the comparisons that make Rolex really nervous. Number 10, Citizen ProMaster Diver versus Rolex Submariner. The Citizen ProMaster Diver costs $280, while the Rolex Submariner costs $9,000, $15,000, but both can safely dive to 200 meters underwater. Both watches meet official ISO diving safety standards, meaning they're equally safe and reliable for actual scuba diving and swimming activities. The Citizen uses solar power that charges from any light and never needs batteries, while Rolex needs expensive $800, $1,000 servicing every 5 to 7 years. The Citizen's glow-in-the-dark stuff often shines brighter and lasts longer than Rolex's, making it easier to see time underwater at night. Rolex really doesn't want you realizing that diving standards are the same, so both watches work identically for actual diving, despite huge price differences. Rich people feel embarrassed when someone points out their $15,000 Submariner does the exact same diving job as a $280 Citizen watch. The Citizen costs only 3% of the Submariner's price, but delivers 95% of the same functionality for swimming, diving, and daily wearing. Kids understand this easily. If both watches keep you safe diving to the same depth, why pay $14,720 more for just a fancier logo? Number 9. Seiko Presage versus Rolex Oyster Perpetual. The Seiko Presage Cocktail Time costs $425, while Rolex Oyster Perpetual costs $6,200, but both are dress watches with automatic movements. Both watches have beautiful dials, automatic movements that wind themselves, and date windows showing what day of the month it is currently. The Seiko's multi-layered sunburst dial often looks more interesting with better depth than Rolex's simpler, flatter dials that cost way more. Both movements keep similar time accuracy and have comparable power reserves, so the mechanical experience feels basically identical when wearing them daily. Rolex panics when people compare these because the Seiko's dial craftsmanship rivals or beats Rolex quality at only 7% of the price. The exhibition case back on the Seiko lets you see the pretty movement inside, while Rolex hides theirs behind solid steel backs. Watch collectors quietly admit many Seiko dials look prettier and more interesting than plain Rolex dials costing 15 times more money. Kids get this. Both watches look fancy for important events, so why spend $5,175 extra for nearly the same fancy appearance? Number 8. Casio Oceanus versus Rolex Datejust. The Casio Oceanus costs $2,600, while Rolex Datejust costs $15,000, but the Casio actually keeps more accurate time using radio signals. Both watches have titanium or steel cases, sapphire crystals, date displays, and elegant designs suitable for business and formal occasions. The Oceanus receives atomic time signals from radio towers that make it perfectly accurate automatically, while Rolex loses seconds daily needing manual adjustment. Both use similar polishing techniques, creating mirror-like finishes, with the Oceanus using Salaz polishing that looks virtually identical to Rolex finishing. The Casio's solar charging means zero maintenance forever, while the Datejust needs expensive $1,000 servicing every few years for the entire life. Rolex really hates this comparison because the cheaper Casio is actually more technologically advanced with better accuracy than the expensive Rolex. The Oceanus costs only 16% of the Datejust's price while providing superior timekeeping accuracy and zero maintenance requirements for owners. Kids understand this. The Casio tells more accurate time and never needs fixing, so it's actually smarter and more reliable than expensive Rolex. Number 7. Orient Komatsu versus Rolex Submariner. The Orient Komatsu costs only $275, while Rolex Submariner costs $9,000 or $15,000. Yet both are ISO-certified dive watches with automatic movements. Both watches safely dive to 200 meters, have automatic movements, day-date displays, and vintage-inspired dive watch styling that looks really cool. The Komatsu uses Orient's own in-house movement they design and build themselves, just like Rolex makes their own movements too. Both movements keep similar accuracy and have comparable power reserves, making them feel basically identical during daily wearing and timekeeping. Rolex desperately doesn't want people noticing that Orient delivers essentially the same diving capability for only 3% of Submariner's crazy high price. The exhibition case back on the Komatsu lets you watch the automatic movement working while Rolex hides their movement behind solid backs. Watch collectors privately admit the Komatsu offers incredible value, while Submariner mainly provides brand bragging rights worth $8,725, apparently to some buyers. Kids get this simply. Both watches work great for swimming and have self-winding movements, so why pay $14,725 more for the same capabilities? Number 6. Tudor Black Bay 58 vs. Rolex Submariner. The Tudor Black Bay 58 costs $3,800, while Rolex Submariner costs $9,000, $15,000, and Rolex owns Tudor, so they're basically sister companies. Both watches have 200-meter water resistance, CO-SC certified chronometer movements, manufacturer calibers, and similar build quality throughout their construction. The Black Bay 58's 39mm size actually fits better on most people's wrists than Submariner's bulkier 41mm case that feels too big. Both use manufacturer movements with 70-hour power reserves and comparable accuracy, making the mechanical experience essentially identical when wearing them daily. Rolex really panics when people compare these because it exposes how much extra they charge just for the crown logo versus Tudor's shield. The Black Bay 58 is available immediately without waiting lists or dealer games, while Submariner requires months of waiting and relationship building. Tudor delivers nearly identical quality for 40% of Submariner's price without the artificial scarcity nonsense that frustrates normal watch buyers. Kids understand this. Both are made by the same parent company with similar quality, so why pay double for one versus the other? Number 5. Grand Seiko Quartz versus Rolex Oyster Perpetual. The Grand Seiko Quartz costs around $2,500, while Rolex Oyster Perpetual costs $6,200, but the Grand Seiko is actually more accurate. Both watches have beautiful finishing sapphire crystals and elegant designs suitable for business casual and dress occasions throughout daily life. The Grand Seiko's high-accuracy quartz is accurate to within seconds per year, while mechanical Rolex loses several seconds per day, needing constant adjustment. Both cases have incredible mirror-like polishing using Zaratsu, Grand Seiko, and traditional methods, Rolex, that look virtually identical when compared side by side. The Grand Seiko costs 40% of the Rolex price while being more accurate and requiring less maintenance throughout the entire ownership period. Rolex doesn't want this comparison because it shows their mechanical movements are actually less accurate than quality quartz movements costing way less. The Grand Seiko's quartz means you never wind it or pay for servicing, while mechanical Rolex needs expensive maintenance costing thousands during ownership. Kids understand easily. The cheaper watch keeps better time and needs less fixing, making it smarter and more reliable than expensive mechanical Rolex. Number 4. Seiko Alpinist versus Rolex Explorer. The Seiko Alpinist costs $700, while Rolex Explorer costs $7,000, but the Seiko actually has more useful features for adventures. Both watches are designed for outdoor adventures with tough construction, reliable movements, and designs suitable for hiking and exploring nature. The Alpinist has a working compass bezel that helps you navigate when hiking, while Explorer's plain bezel does nothing useful at all. The Seiko can dive 200 meters underwater, while Explorer only manages 100 meters, making the cheaper Seiko tougher for water activities. Both have automatic movements with similar reliability and accuracy, so they keep time equally well during daily wearing and outdoor adventures. Rolex panics when people notice they charge 10 times more for the Explorer despite it having fewer features than the cheaper Alpinist. The Alpinist's gorgeous green dial looks way cooler than Explorer's boring plain black dial that every other watch already has anyway. Kids get this. The Seiko has a compass and goes deeper underwater, but costs way less. That's just obviously the smarter choice. Number 3. Grand Seiko Snowflake versus Rolex Datejust. The Grand Seiko Snowflake costs $5,800, while Rolex Datejust costs $10,000, $15,000. But the Grand Seiko has revolutionary spring drive technology. The spring drive makes the second hand glide smoothly like butter instead of ticking, which Rolex can't do at any price point. The Snowflake is accurate to within 1 second per day, while Datejust loses several seconds daily, even with expensive chronometer certification. Both watches have beautiful polishing, but Grand Seiko's Zaratsu polishing creates distortion-free mirrors that honestly equal or exceed Rolex finishing quality. The titanium Snowflake is way lighter and more comfortable than heavy steel Date, just that hurts your wrists during all-day wearing. Rolex desperately doesn't want people seeing this because it proves Grand Seiko delivers objectively better technology and finishing for half the price. The Snowflake's textured dial changes appearance in different light, making it way more interesting than plain flat Datejust dials costing more. Kids understand this. The Grand Seiko keeps better time, has smoother movement, looks prettier, and costs less. That's obviously better overall. Number 2, Citizen Satellite Wave versus Rolex Day-Date. The Citizen Satellite Wave costs around $1,800, while Rolex Day-Date costs $36,000, $40,000, yet the Citizen is more accurate and more functional. The Citizen receives signals from GPS satellites in space for perfect time anywhere on Earth, while Rolex needs manual adjustment constantly. When traveling, the Citizen automatically knows what time zone you're in and changes itself, while Day-Date requires manual adjustment using the crown. Both watches have perpetual calendars, but Citizen's works automatically through 2100, while Day-Date needs monthly manual corrections that annoy owners. The Citizen's solar charging means zero maintenance forever, while Day-Date needs expensive servicing costing thousands of dollars every few years forever. Rolex absolutely hates this comparison because it shows a $1,800 Citizen is actually more advanced than their $40,000 flagship model. The Satellite Wave costs only 4.5% of the Day-Date's price, while providing superior accuracy, convenience, and technology throughout ownership. Kids understand this perfectly. The cheaper watch gets updates from space satellites while the expensive one needs constant manual fixing, obviously backwards. Number 1, Grand Seiko High Beat versus Rolex Day-Date. The Grand Seiko High Beat costs $9,800, while Rolex Day-Date costs $36,000, $40,000, but Grand Seiko delivers objectively better watchmaking. The Grand Seiko movement beats 36,000 times per hour, creating smoother second-hand motion than Rolex's slower movements throughout operation. The finishing inside Grand Seiko movements is absolutely stunning with decorations that honestly exceed what you find inside Rolex movements, costing 4 times more. The exhibition case back lets you see the gorgeous movement with hand-beveled edges, while Rolex hides everything behind solid gold backs. Grand Seiko's Zaratsu polishing creates distortion-free mirrors that actually beat Rolex finishing when examined closely under magnification by experts. The 80-hour power reserve in new models runs longer than most Rolex watches, providing better convenience during collection rotation wearing. The textured dials inspired by Japanese nature are way more interesting and beautiful than plain Rolex dials costing 4 times more money. Rolex absolutely panics when people see this comparison because it completely destroys their value proposition and exposes inflated pricing based on hype.